All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome in Tuesday edition of Green Dot Daily, Action Network's daily sports betting show. Brendan Glasheen in for Maria Marino today. Thanks for finding us. Action Network app, the Action Network YouTube channel. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. Like the video, leave a comment. We'll check it out. Hopefully it's positive. Thanks for tuning into the show. A lot going on tonight in March Madness. That's coming your way shortly. Jay Money is going to join us, a team that he is high on in the Western Conference, not just tonight, but down the stretch as we head towards the NBA postseason. Joe Delaris stops by as well. A look at tonight's slate. Joining us, though, to break down a couple of first four matchups in March Madness on the men's side, we have the two members of our predictive analytics team here at Action Network, Sean Kerner and Nick Giffen, stopping by. We're not doing luck rankings in the NFL. We're talking hoops with these guys. Here are the games tonight. We've got Howard and Wagner squaring off first. Howard, the short favorite against Wagner. And then Nick Giffen's Virginia Cavaliers, a small dog against Colorado State. Those two teams are playing for a 10 seed. UVA and the under. I like DeBundo gave out the under the other day. Under at 120.5, getting 76% of the cash. Night. All right, let's welcome in Sean Kerner, Nick Giffen now to lead off the show. I will turn to Sean Kerner first. What is your look for tonight, Sean, in the first four taking place in Dayton, Ohio?
Yeah, so I'm going with Bryce Harris of Howard to go over 7.5 rebounds at -120. Harris has cleared this number 58% of the time in conference play, well, averaging, 34.8 minutes a game. But tonight he's likely going to play 38 plus minutes, maybe the entire game, just considering this is a play-in game to become the 16 seed. It's also a plus matchup for him to rack up some boards. Wagner is one of the worst shooting teams in the country, and they get to the free throw line at one of the lowest rates in Division I. So that's going to set up Harris for even more rebound opportunities tonight than normal. We're projecting him actually closer to 9.5 rebounds, so 2 full rebounds above this line. So we're giving him about a 70% chance to clear 7.5. But it's also worth grabbing some of his alt markets. They're offering over 9.5 boards at plus 245, projecting that closer to plus 125, and over 11.5 boards at plus 650, projecting that closer to plus 350.
Okay, very good. Winner of this game draws North Carolina in the West region. Nick Giffen, and it should be more specific. These guys are breaking down player props. They'll have extensive breakdowns, actionnetwork.com. Find them in the app. Follow them, of course, to track their picks, your picks, but also write-ups. Also in the Discord channel. They'll be all over the place in the Discord throughout the course of the tournament. And, of course, the big tournament preview show that's already out on the podcast side, the Action Network podcast. Nick Giffen, your Cavaliers are small dogs tonight. What angle might you be taking from a player prop perspective, the late game in the first?
Yeah, I promise this is not a homer pick, but it does correlate with helping Virginia advance. And I'm going to go on Colorado State's side. I'm going to take Joel Scott to have under 12.5 points. If you can get that at plus money, I love it. I got it plus 110. As we have literally been talking, it's moved down to plus 100. There's some 13.5s out there. If you want to take it like minus 140, that's totally fine. I prefer the 12.5 at plus money simply because it's a little bit bigger edge. But Virginia is the slowest paced team in the nation, and they're a top 15 defensive efficiency team. What that does is that means Colorado State's implied team total of 61.5 points is 10 points lower than their 71, just over 71 points per game that they averaged in conference. Well, Joel Scott averaged 13.3 points per game in conference. And now if you're thinking, well, there's gonna be 10 fewer points to go around, that would just lower his 13.3 down as well. But also, we have to adjust for the specific matchup here. Joel Scott gets a lot of his points at the free throw line, but Virginia fouls at the 19th lowest adjusted rate in the nation when I adjust for opposing schedules. And since Scott is the 65th highest free throw rate in the nation among all players across all 362 teams, that is going to hurt him tremendously because he probably won't be getting to the line as much and already should have a lower projection just from the lower overall points Colorado State is expected to score. And when teams do score from the field on Virginia, it tends to come a little bit more from the outside. Virginia allows, 60.5% of non-free throw points inside the arc compared to a 62.5% national average. So a couple percent lower from inside, which hurts Scott because he gets 88% of his non-free throw points inside. I will say Scott's usage has increased over the last 8 games. It's hard to tell if that is going to continue or if that's just a small sample size aberration. But even if I use the higher usage rate, I'm still projecting 57% to stay under 12.5. And if we use his longer term usage rate, that's like 68% to stay under 12.5 points. And then, of course, if you go up to 13.5 points, there's even more probability he stays under those. So I really like this matchup for Virginia defensively, specifically against Joel Scott.
And of course, there might be some 13.5s out there. We were chatting before we went live on the show. That number's fluctuating. You mentioned the 12.5, the odds shifting to even money. So 13.5 at, a little more juice. Is that still okay for the audience?
Absolutely. 13.5, minus 140, minus 145 in there. I'm definitely showing value. And, Sean mentioned the alt overs. There's an alt under there of 11.5 at plus money that I don't hate as well, because we're projecting around a little over 10.5 with his lower, longer term usage rate.
All right, so that's our setup for tonight's games. Wagner and Howard on True TV, and then following that, Colorado State and Virginia. Looking further, Sean Kerner, to more first four action, what might your second one be for us? You got that first matchup tomorrow night.
Yeah, so I'm attacking this 16 seed matchup again for tomorrow night with Grambling State versus Montana State. And I'm going with Kentavious Dozier of Grambling State to go over 11.5 points at minus 120. Dozier was the Tigers' leading scorer this season. I expect them to lean on him even more, for the March Madness playing game. Montana State sets up for a pretty good matchup for him specifically as well. They tend to send their opponents to the free throw line at a pretty high rate. And since Dozier is the highest usage player for Grambling State, I expect him to get a couple more free throw attempts because of that. And he's an 80% shooter from the charity stripe. So getting him into the line is going to help him significantly here. Plus, Montana State's allowed their opponents to shoot 54% on 2-point attempts this season, which is one of the worst rates in Division I. And Dozier leads Grambling State in 2-point attempts on the season. So this is just another reason why we're projecting him closer to, 13, 14 points here with about a 63% chance he clears 11.5.
All right. And by the way, we should just establish, we didn't just stick the 16 matchups on Kerner. Okay. He's an edge. He's going in this direction.
I voluntarily chose these matchups.
Very good.
Might as well.
Thanks for the clarification. So the other first four game in Dayton, Ohio tomorrow night, Boise State and Colorado. Remember this name from his TCU Horned Frog days. Mm-hmm. Nick Giffen, you have an edge on one of those guys tonight for the Buffs.
Yeah, we got the whole state of Colorado, it seems, playing in the first four here, especially in the 10 seed games. So I'm going to go Colorado's Eddie Lampkin. You mentioned he used to play for TCU. That's part of the angle here. Under 0.5, under half a steal at minus 135. So in other words, we want him to get no steals in this game. And he only has 11 steals all year. And that includes a game with 2 steals and a game with 3 steals, which means out of 34 games, he has had a steal in just 8 of them, which is only 23.5%, right? If that was his long-term rate, which I don't think it is, but if it was, that would be like a little bit longer, I should say, than shorter than minus 300. So minus 135 is a long way off from that. And I think what must be happening here is sportsbooks must be regressing his steal rate towards his TCU days. But that was under a different system, different coach. We have a 34 game sample size now of him playing at Colorado. So his current 0.7% steal rate is probably his true rate at this point in the season. Boise State also presents a tough opportunity to rack up steals, given they play a little bit slower pace than average. And out of the 362 teams in Division I, they're 93rd in terms of lowest steal rate allowed. So, a top quarter, 25% team here in terms of preventing steals. So we're actually projecting Eddie Lampkin to have 0 steals a little more than 70% of the time. So, this line should be closer to something like minus 250. So minus 135, just great value.
And they don't turn the ball over that much either, right? 11.2 turnovers per game. So they take care of it, slow pace. That does not set up for a steal or a theft possibility for Eddie Lampkin. Okay, fellas, great work. And we'll be promoting the Action Pro here in just a moment, but we'll find you guys there with the Action tool that you guys find edges on props. Sean Kerner, Nick Giffen of our Action Network Predictive Analytics team. We'll be talking to you guys again. Enjoy the first 4 action in Dayton. If you've ever wanted to try the best version of the Action app, that time is now, because we're running a special offer on Action Pro to celebrate the start of the NCAA tournament. You can try Pro Access for just $9.99 for the first month with Action Pro. You get our biggest betting model edges, real-time money percentages, data-driven systems, player prop projections with the guys Kerner and Giffen. You've heard from them already. Lots more. Just visit actionnetwork.com/madness to take advantage before this deal expires. That's actionnetwork.com/madness. Let's go to the NBA. Short slate tonight, 5 games in the association. Taking a look at the Pelicans this year, 41-26 record. They finished with 42 wins last year, outscoring their opponents by about 5 per game. Zion Williamson, he's trimming the weight. He's back in the weight room. He's looked good since that in-season tournament in Las Vegas. A top 10 team defensively and offensively as it pertains to their analytics and ratings. So they're looking good. And let's welcome in our Action Network NBA contributor, Jay Money is joining us. And Jay, you're high on this team. Let's just speak to where they are at tonight. And you like the Pelicans in their spot tonight. Why?
Yeah, luckily Zion stopped eating burgers and pizza every day and decided to lose some weight there. That's exactly what the Pelicans need, in my opinion. But I am rocking with them tonight. Pelicans -7. They're 6-1 straight up and against the spread in their last 7 games. And the Nets are the exact opposite. Only 1-5 straight up and against the spread in their last 6 games. So they're somewhere free falling while the Pelicans are balling right now. And just feel like the Pelicans might just run away with this one. The Nets are coming back home off a long road trip as well. So they don't really have a ton more to play for. They're kind of just really going through the motions right now. So I do like the Pelicans -7 tonight.
Pelicans are up to the 5 seed in what is a loaded West. That's well documented. It's been talked about quite a bit. You co-host the Buckets podcast. You guys are talking about these teams in the West on a daily basis, and you're trying to make sense of the cluster that is the Western Conference. Pels have won 7 of 10, and you're bullish on this team. Why? From a future standpoint.
Well, this team plays defense. There's not a lot of teams in the NBA these days that really care about defense, but the Pelicans do. They're the number 4 defensive rated over their last 10 games. I really think they have a chance to make some noise in the playoffs as well. Like I say, with Zion being in top form, that's exactly what they needed, because they have guys like Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum as well. They have really great defenders, guys like Herb Jones, Najee Marshall, and Jose Alvarado coming off the bench. So all they needed was for Zion to be in tip-top shape to really take them to a different level. That's what he's done. There's been talk about him losing 25 pounds. He looks really good. He looks explosive once again. This team is really rounded into form, and I think they're really well balanced as well, offensively and defensively, and that's something that you really need to make a run in the playoffs.
15 games to go, including tonight. Let me throw this at you. First round matchup, what would be an ideal draw for the Pelicans in the first round in the West?
Well, I'd like to, if they matched up with the Clippers, which right now that is the 4 or 5 seed, I think they could give the Clippers a run for their money, especially with the Clippers. I know that they have like the experience, but they're just they're an older team, and they still don't know their identity. It's pretty late in the season right now to not know your identity. Obviously the team has had a lot of injuries as well. It's just an old team where you're going up against a Pelican squad that's a very young squad that can have some really great matchups defensively as well. They match up really well with the Clippers when it comes down to the bench, when it comes down to the coaching, everything. So if I'm the Clippers, I would try my best to try to get to that 3 seed there, man, because the Pelicans, honestly, any of the top 4 teams, you don't want to see the Pelicans in that first round, to be perfectly honest with you. Not with the fully healthy team and Zion looking the way he's looking lately.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, though, because the Thunder, the Wolves, and the Nuggets have kind of separated. They're going to be in the top 3, whichever order we'll find out. And then the Clippers and Pels could just flip-flop, and it's all going to depend on who has home court. That's kind of what it feels like at this stage with 15 to go. But you never know. We've seen crazier things in the West. And then quickly, Jay Money on the Nets. This is a team you're kind of, Well, you're fading them tonight, but you're kind of staying away from this group down the stretch here.
Yeah, this is a team that just had a chance to beat the San Antonio Spurs, one of the worst teams in the NBA, and they had a 10-point lead. They pissed it away and ended up going to overtime and lost the game outright. And you could just tell their body language, like their body language is not good. That's something that comes from watching games. Obviously, they fired their coach Vaughn over there, and they wanted a new coach. Well, guess what? It still hadn't mattered. Mikal Bridges has not been playing well. Really, Cam Thomas, which he's a younger player, he's really like their best offensive guy. Outside of him, Mikal Bridges not giving them much. Dennis Schroeder has been a good pickup for them for Toronto. But in my opinion, I would just stay very far from betting this team for the rest of the season. They're sitting at the 11th seed right now. They're probably not going to make the play-in tournament. I don't like what I'm seeing from them. They're kind of just going through the motions, just waiting for the season to be over with. So personally, I would stay far away from them, the Nets. I would actually look towards fading them or just staying away from that team.
They've lost 5 of 6, and that's what I meant to say. You're staying away from the Nets side. You might actually be a proponent of a Nets game and taking the team that they're playing. They are in action tonight against New Orleans, and then they've got Milwaukee on the road on Thursday. Okay, Jay Money, thanks for stopping by. We'll see how this shakes out in the West, and best of luck tonight. You've got the Pelicans -7 against Brooklyn.
Yes, sir. Anytime. Fly, Pelly, fly.
Hey, everybody. It's Joe Delara, and I've got 2 of my favorite plays for this Tuesday NBA slate. The first pick that we're looking at is the New Orleans Pelicans -4.5 in the first half against the Brooklyn Nets. The Pelicans take on the Nets, and this is a game between 2 teams that are trending in dramatically different directions. Since the All-Star break, the Pelicans are 8-4 with a plus 15.7 net rating in the first half. The starters in the bench unit are both strong, and their rotations optimize their talent. So starting off strong has really been a hallmark of this Pelicans season. On the flip side, when we look at Brooklyn, they've struggled to start games. They're 5-9 with a -1.7 net rating in the first half after the All-Star break. And when we look at the full games, they're -2.6 in net rating, which is the 21st ranked net rating since the All-Star break. New Orleans is a much better team at this juncture, and given their drive and focus out of the All-Star break, I expect them to start this game off strong. I'll lay the points with the Pelicans in the first half and grab them -4.5. For my next play, I'm looking at the Mavericks versus the San Antonio Spurs, and I'm looking at Luka Doncic over 8.5 first quarter points. Luka's a first quarter merchant. On the season, Luka averages 9.7 points, 2.7 rebounds, and 2.9 assists in 9.7 minutes during the first quarter. This matchup against the Spurs is a particularly strong one from a matchup perspective as well. The Spurs play at the 3rd fastest pace in the league, while the Mavericks play at the 9th fastest. However, if we break this down on a little bit more of a granular level and look directly at the first quarter since the All-Star break, the Spurs play at the fastest pace, while the Mavericks play at the 4th fastest pace in the first quarter. Both of these teams really start the game off running. So the Spurs' first quarter defense has been a bit better since the break. However, Luka has played very well against this Spurs team this season. In the first quarter, he scored 7 points, but then he's also scored 17 and 13 against them this season, and I like him to go over the 8.5 today. So to recap, my 2 favorite plays for this NBA slate on Tuesday are the New Orleans Pelicans -4.5 in the first half and Luka Doncic over 8.5 first quarter points. Best of luck on your wagers today and enjoy the rest of your Tuesdays.
Our busy week continues here at Action Network. We're keeping you up to date on everything NCAA tournament-wise. Coming up very shortly, in the next hour or so, we'll have our Cinderella draft with our college basketball contributors. 4:30 Eastern. Watch us in the Action app as well as the Action Network YouTube channel where you're watching this show. In all likelihood, Wednesday tournament preview show comes your way at 3 Eastern, so no GDD on Wednesday. We'll have a tournament preview show at 3 p.m. Eastern time, and then Thursday through Sunday, 10:30 a.m. start for BBOC, Big Bets on Campus, covering all angles of college basketball, March Madness, all that good stuff. As a reminder to North Carolina residents, sports betting is live now, and there are some awesome registration offers out there. Make sure to check out the link in the description or go to actionnetwork.com for specific offer codes. Any picks that are given on the program, you can easily reference by following the show account, Green.Daily, in the Action app. We keep track so you do not have to. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody, to Green Dot Daily. Again, you can find us most weekdays here at 3 Eastern. We've got some extra programming this week with college basketball. Thanks for tuning in. We will join you next time. Find us in the Action app. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.